put an APB out on this guy, didn't we? Had to get the chief of police look for him too, didn't we?
Yeah, we had to get the authorities involved.
Coach was still celebrating. He's ready for that Christmas parade up there.
Well, but not only that, but he was in such high demand after winning the state championship that there were media outlets hounding this guy for days. Finally, we were able to make it happen. We want to welcome the head coach of the North Lincoln Knights, Charlie Goss. Coach, welcome back to the show. Congratulations, state 3A champions for the Knights. How's it feel, Coach?
It feels great, and I appreciate you guys having me. Yeah, definitely surreal. Not sure it's set in yet.
Have you had any?
Yeah,
have you had any sleep, Coach? You're still trying to process all this stuff.
I don't sleep anyways, but
okay.
But yeah, I did sleep in 2 days, which was nice.
Okay. Yeah, I think winning a state championship would probably be deserving of something like that. Coach, the one thing that I was fascinated in looking at the story as to how all of this went down was you lost game one of the series to Greenville Rose and did it in a way to where, to be honest with you, a lot of clubs would have just folded up. They just would have just called it a day, demoralizing. We don't, we just didn't have it, and it's gonna spiral out of control. You guys, despite losing game one in a very disruptive kind of way, were able to really come through in games 2 and 3, and I don't know that you could have necessarily called 2 shutouts in the final 2 games of the series, but you guys were able to show some character, some chutzpah, and come back and win the state title. Would love to get your thoughts on how this club performed and what this club's mindset was going into the Saturday, knowing they lost the way they lost in game 1.
Yeah, it definitely just speaks to the resiliency they had this year. We had a bunch of close games this year. We went to extra innings multiple times. We had walk-off wins, come from behind wins, and all that. Yeah, game 1 definitely did not finish the way we wanted it to, being up 4-1 going into the bottom of the 7th. But we do multiple things with the team before the season starts, where we run them through kind of a boot camp, I guess you could call it, where it's nothing to do with baseball necessarily. And they army crawl, they do relays. Guys put their whole effort out there, and the whole plan of that is by the end of it, when they realize they all made it through, that you've been through some tough things now, and you've seen that you can make it out on the other side. And after that last game on Friday night, not the last game, after the first game of the series on Friday night, the kids were in better spirits than me immediately, to be honest with you. The players involved in that game that had things not go their way there at the end, other teammates were picking them up. My starting pitcher, who went 6 innings and absolutely tore it up, comes out of the game, and then he's in the dugout, and he sees what happens on the field, and as soon as the game was over, we haven't even made it out of the dugout yet. He's yelling, "So what?" to the rest of the team. So what? We're better than this team. We got 2 games tomorrow. So what? And we get back to the hotel. We eat dinner down in the lobby and just try to tell the guys, look, the situation hasn't changed. We came down here knowing we had to win 2 games, and they're going to allow us to play 2 games tomorrow. And we had breakfast together the next morning, and every single one of those guys came downstairs in the lobby with all their stuff, just with their game face on and ready to get back on the field. They just had nothing but confidence going into Saturday, because we had been in some tough spots, and we're always able to come through there in the end when it mattered. And it was like, the same situation we had been in for weeks. So they didn't know anything different.
Well, Coach, you can tell you're a state champion because the birds are chirping behind you, and it sounds like that life is really, really good for you after having won that state championship. Coach, if you're like most coaches are constantly grinding away. What could I have done? What could I have done? What could I have done? Coach, were you doing a little bit of that after that game 1, or had you just completely filed it away and started looking forward to the next 2?
I would like to tell you that I completely filed it away. But yeah, there was definitely some, what could I have done? Thankfully, my wife is the most amazing person in the world. And, she's who I go to. And, we got back up into the hotel, and, she was explaining to me, which we talk about all the time, that so many things have gone our way this year. And it was like God had already wrote the story for us. And, you know, not trying to do everything on our own, but just giving our best effort and leaving the rest of it at his feet. And the story is already written. Let's just go out there and try to make him proud and just play as hard as we possibly can. And, you know, there was still some, you know, well, maybe I could have done this, maybe I could have done that. But really the way we went about it was the way we went about it the whole season. And, you know, you can't always control some of those things. I was a catcher for 20 years. I threw multiple balls out in right field that I didn't want to throw out in right field. But there's just a piece about it, you know, because the entire year it felt different. And it was like things were going our way. Even in those tough times that, you know, it was like it was meant to be.
Coach, you know, like Brian said, you guys, and we've been around a lot of baseball coaches, and you guys never stop. You cut the field. It's, you know, fall workouts, and you got to keep the field looking good. You guys get the fields ready to play in November, and you don't start till, you know, first of the year. When did you think, hey, man, this team might be special? Was it after last year's season, knowing some players that you had coming in, what you had coming back? Was it after you faced a couple tests? Was it midway through? Was it the championship games for the state tournament? I mean, when did you know this team was special?
Probably about 700 some odd days ago.
Okay.
We have exit interviews normally after every season where we pull the kids in and we talk to them about the previous year and looking forward. And you know, last year in our exit interviews, talking to all our returners coming back, it was, you know, you see the writing on the wall. You know, you see what we're going to have coming back and how much you guys mean to each other and how long this group specifically has played together since you were kids. And you know, normally I feel like you might bring that up to your team, and you know, you might get a feeling that, you know, those are just words to them, and they might not know exactly what you mean by that. And yeah, it sounds good, but you know, that's kind of crazy talk. But these guys all took that to heart and knew, based off what we had coming back and how much these guys love to play together, kind of what was at stake, and the you know, the possibility of when we get on the field, there's not a team that's better than us. And they practice that way in the fall. I've coached football for 7 years, so other than working on the field in the fall, my assistants have always been out there grinding away with them and doing workouts. And, you know, we wouldn't have made it where we are without them. And, you know, they would come back and tell me every day after workouts. I'd talk to them in the evening after football practice, and, you know, they were just, you know, something different. And then when football gets over with and I'm around and we're doing workouts every single day, there was definitely something different. Just guys taking it every single rep to heart and taking it seriously. And, you know, we have a job to do, and the season starts. We don't have the start we want. And again, you might think that guys would be like, well, it was a good idea, but it doesn't look like it's in the cards for us. But everyone saw how if we just flipped one little switch, everything could be completely different. And we started playing really self-sacrificial offensive baseball and situational baseball, and, you know, giving up your stats for the sake of the team. And everyone bought into that. Wherever they needed to play is where they wanted to play, regardless of where they felt like they should, you know, where they felt like they would have the most success at. It was put me where you want me to be, and I'll do whatever job I have to. It was just a lot of fun.
Coach Charlie Goss here with us on the Rush Hour Morning Show. Coach, I want to take you back to something you said just a little bit ago, talking about baseball wives. Baseball wives, to me, are amongst some of the best salt of the earth people on the planet. Now, the reason I bring that up is, yes, baseball wives, by osmosis, they're going to pick up things about the game. But I think one of the things that's truly great about baseball wives is the perspective that they're able to bring. Like, for instance, we know if you go 3 for 10 year after year, you're going to be a Hall of Famer. We understand how difficult it is to hit home runs. They just don't always happen, and a lot of the times when you hit one, you're not even necessarily trying to. It's that sort of real-world, day-to-day perspective that I think baseball wives are truly able to bring. I want to talk to you, Coach, about what it's like to have a baseball wife and how her being grounded helps you to stay grounded.
Yeah, well, I'm obviously partial, but yeah, I truly think I have the best one there is. She, you know, even when I do make a mistake and I know I made a mistake, you know, again, it's keeping me grounded. You know, if I have my best interest at heart and I was doing what I thought was right in the moment, you know, then I can lay my head down at night knowing that I'm trying to do my best for the kids on the team. And she's been around for football and baseball for the last 7 years, and definitely my biggest supporter. And thankfully, I do have a coach's wife that loves the game and loves being at the field. And if I have to go work at the field till 10 o'clock at night, she's either doing stuff around the house or she's out there at the field with a rake in her hand helping me out. And, I mean, I've been beyond blessed at the coach's wife that I have, because I could not be doing what I'm doing without her support. It's not you know, she doesn't take it like I'm out there coaching just a rec league team and I just do this for fun, and it takes too much time away from our family or anything like that. She knows how important it is to me and how important it is to the kids. You know, I always feel like if I could tell myself that these guys would have a better experience than somebody else as their coach who would put in more hours or more time or care more about them off the field, then I would be doing them a disservice, and she understands that. And, you know, if someone on the team needs something, and that's gone for football too. We've had, you know, kids reach out that need things, whether it's, you know, a meal or whatever it is, and she's there for that. And she absolutely loves it and has embraced it. You know, she was an athlete herself, excelled at everything she ever did, but now she's just fully accepted her role because she's a servant in general, in her life, everybody she can be. And she's doing that for me, and she's doing that for the kids on the baseball team. And yeah, people just don't realize, you know, and if you're not there, how would you know? But people don't realize how much time and sacrifice you make to put something together like this the right way. But she wouldn't want to be doing anything different because she absolutely loves it. And it is a lot of time that you have to sacrifice. But when it's something you want to do and it's something that you see the importance of, you know, it kind of makes it all worth it, and you don't feel like you're having to sacrifice. You feel like you're being able to serve because you want to.
Coach Goss, I want to ask you one more question that's not necessarily baseball centric, but it does kind of speak to the program. And you kind of alluded to this earlier in the conversation. Something you keep using the term something different. I jotted that down here in my notebook when you said it, because we had conversations earlier about the North Lincoln football program, and something different is happening there in the football program. And you just mentioned it yourself with the baseball program. Coach, what's going on up at North Lincoln High School that is this something different that seems to transcend sports?
I wish I could put my finger on it, because if I could answer that question 100%, then I would bottle it up and sell it, because I'd be a millionaire. I can tell you, for me personally, it's all because of Nick Basil. I cut my teeth coaching high school sports with him, and he showed me the reins, and just by watching him on how to do it the right way. My wife, she cut her teeth being a coach's wife based off of Kim Basil, his wife, and has just done whatever she's done. And, you know, it's all about, you got to love your kids and know your craft. And when you get on the field, you know your specific craft better than anybody out there. And I've learned more than I'll ever be able to write down from him, coaching football under him. And then a lot of the things that I saw him do, I just took that with me into the baseball program 4 years ago. And tried to replicate as many things as I possibly could. And I tell you what, the biggest thing is, to be honest with you, is having a relationship with Jesus and not being afraid to show that to other people, because that's what we're all here for anyways. And, you know, it's separate from baseball, it's separate from football, but high school sports is a great, maybe the best tool or avenue to use to be able to share the gospel with people. And when you've got confidence in that, and you know who you are and whose you are and who you belong to, and you know what's important, what's not important, it frees you up to be able to go out there and just have fun and play. And when you know that what Jesus has done for you is, as he came to serve and not to be served, and you take that personally and become that as a coach and become that as a teammate, and you're out there to serve your teammates, not to be served. You're out there to serve your players and not to be served. Everyone just starts to click, just like it does in the real world when you take that mindset. And that's flat out, hands down, been the difference in what I've experienced coaching high school sports at North Lincoln.
Well, and certainly you're not the first person that has said that type of thing about Nick Basil, and that speaks a lot to Nick Basil, and I think it speaks a lot to the community because, Coach, I mean, you've basically kind of said the same thing during this conversation. At the end, okay, some folks are going to forget that North Lincoln won a state championship. I can guarantee you now that you have won the state championship, folks have forgotten the 1-5 start that you had to begin the year. The reality is that the something that transcends sports, even transcends high school sports, is going to be something that kids and coaches can carry with them 10 years down the road, 25 years down the road. It's something that genuinely can last them for an eternity. And I think that sight, that picture of that eternity says everything. And when it gives you an opportunity to be on the biggest stage in North Carolina, playing in a high school state championship, and that comes out, I think that is the biggest of all the wins. But certainly picking up a state championship, not a bad thing either. Coach Charlie Goss, thank you for spending some time with us this morning. We really appreciate it. And at some point, we'd really like to get you back on the show because we'd love to talk about what the future looks like for not just this baseball program, but for North Lincoln in general, because this is part of our area, and it's an area that we definitely want to keep track of. And to do that, we want to talk to some of the coaches. So we'd love to have you back on sometime this summer to continue that conversation.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We can do that. Not a problem. Just reach out to me anytime. And, you know, whenever we can all make it work, I'd love to be back on here.
Okay. Well, Coach, thank you so much. Have a great day. We appreciate you spending some time with us here on the Rush Hour Morning Show.
Yes, sir. Y'all too. I appreciate everything.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Coach. And that was Coach Charlie Goss, whose club won a state championship. After going 1-5 to open the season, they win the state championship on the strength of a pair of shutouts. We didn't even get to talk about the shutouts.
Yeah.
Back-to-back shutouts. Usually when you go the final day having to win 2 games and you only manage 3 runs, usually that's not enough to get it done. Well, they were able to make it happen.
Well, when you got a kid like Shannon Wingate on the football team, right, who's coming back, you got a kid like Kellen Carr who's going to Coastal Carolina, who's a pitcher for your team, and then you add little Jesus to the mix, B. Rush. That don't hurt matters, does it?
Yeah, that's true.
Coach got the winning recipe up there.
Well, and one of the things about Kellen Carr that I hope we're going to be able to do, I have made a reach out to Kevin Schnall, the head coach at Coastal Carolina. So maybe we can talk about Kellen Carr moving forward as he'll be playing for the Chanticleers.